Welcome back to this second video on how to write a laboratory report. This video is going to focus on how to write your methodology. So the two things we're going to do are one, to understand what a methodology is and what you need to contain within it, and two, we'll look at a pass and distinction level of work so that you can write at the correct level to gain a distinction. So first of all, what is a methodology? Well, it's a logical and exact description of activities done during a study. Essentially, it's a step-by-step guide to exactly what was done during your data collection period. Okay, what was done before and what was done after. So there's three sections that I expect to see. The first section is participants, the second section is procedures, and the third section is data analysis. So we'll start with participants. In this section, I expect to see you highlight the number, age and gender of your participants. That is, how many participants were in your study, what age were they, and what gender, male or female. There's some other anthropometric measures that I expect to see, so height, weight, and if you've done any body composition testing, so BMI or body fat percentage, I expect to see them in as well. Now you'll want to, especially if you've got big groups, put these numbers in as averages plus or minus their standard deviations. Now I'm sure you all know how to do averages, but if you're still unsure about how to do standard deviations, which we covered in assignment 1 when we were looking at t-tests, then come and see me or have a look through your notes. I will do a video on how to do these statistics again when it comes to me doing your t-test and Pearson correlation test video. But up at that point, if you want to kind of crack on with it, then come see me. You need to tell me where your participants are from. Did you pick them up from the college? Did you get them from your local sports team? Okay, and say what they do. So what sport are they involved in? What level are they involved in? Okay, are they elite players? Are they novice players? All that information allows the reader, if they were to perform a study again, get similar athletes or similar people to take part in their study, so that the results should be the same. Probably the most important part of the whole methodology, although they're all important, is the actual procedures section. So explaining exactly step by step what you did to get your data. You must give all makes and models of the equipment that you've used. So I know everyone used heart rate monitors. Those of you who use treadmills, those of you who use the bikes, the heart rates, the treadmills and the bikes, equipment needs to be listed. So again, if someone wants to redo your study, they'll be able to get the exact same equipment and replicate, hopefully, your results. You need to write this section so that another person could do exactly what you did. So therefore it needs to be detailed and explain every single thing you did from the moment someone stepped into the lab to the moment they left. You have to write as if your reader has no idea about sport and exercise science. Okay, so if you put in any words such as heart rate and then use an abbreviation such as HR, you need to explain what that means. So the final point on this slide is heart rate abbreviation. So I'll put heart rate there, and in brackets I've put HR, so that the reader knows that heart rate, if he saw the HR again, it means heart rate. Similarly, I've done it for beats per minute. I've just done it the opposite way around. So I put 200 BPM, and in brackets after I've put beats per minute. Doesn't matter which way around you do it, as long as you do it and you explain any kind of abbreviations or terminology that you use. Again, so that all the reader knows exactly what you're talking about. In this section as well, you need to explain the exclusion criteria. So if for whatever reason you didn't allow people to take part in your study, then you need to explain that. And as well, the kind of dropout points for participants. So again, my example there is if heart rate's over 200 beats a minute during exercise, then the exercise testing was stopped for safety. So what other sort of things did you do? Okay, did you only focus on one gender, male or female, and not allow the other gender to take part? So everything that needs to be explained and justified as to why you did that. Okay. So the final section of the methodology which I expect to see is data analysis. So this is an explanation of all of the analysis you're going to conduct in your results once you have them. Okay. So are you going to be comparing averages, standard deviations? Are you going to perform a t-test for differences or Pearson's correlation test for correlations between sets of data? So which type of test are you going to use? Why are you going to use that test? Why is that the best test to use? and where are you going to perform those tests. Are you going to perform in Microsoft Excel, or are you going to use SPSS? So you need to explain to me and the readers exactly how you're going to analyze your data and why those tests are good. It's not about just saying what you're going to do, it's about saying why you're going to do it. Okay, and again, this section needs to be written so that if someone was going to come and do your study, then they would be able to perform exactly how you performed. Okay, so get the same participants, complete the same procedure, and do the same data analysis at the end, and therefore they should get similar, if not the same, results that you found. One big thing that I know we push in almost all the assignments that you've done so far for laboratory experiments, but you need to be constantly thinking about validity and reliability. And this is a nice little statement by two geezers from 2005. Sometimes there's universal agreement that a particular instrument provides a valid instrument for measuring a particular characteristic. We could all agree that a ruler measures length, a thermometer measures temperature, and a barometer measures air pressure. But whenever we do not have such universal agreement, we must provide evidence that an instrument we are using has validity for our purpose. So how does this link to us? Well, you've got to think about all the equipment that you've used. Okay, are those equipment the best equipment we could have had? Okay, so are they the best heart rate monitors you could have used? Are they the best treadmills? Now, if they're not the best, you need to explain why they've been used, and it's not really relevant to say that that was the only equipment that you had at the time. Although yes, it's true. Okay, you need to kind of be more positive about it and try and justify why you're using them. What's good about the equipment that you've used as opposed to what's bad. So always be thinking about that, and always be thinking about the error of the equipment as well. Are they good pieces of equipment for measuring the data that you've done? Okay, so have a think about that. And again, if you struggle to think of any points for that, then please come and see me. So the crux of kind of why you'll be watching this video, and I've got a feeling some people might have skipped straight to this point, which I hope you haven't, and if you have, go back and do the first objective, please. Essentially, what am I looking for to differentiate between a pass and a distinction piece of work for your methodology? Well, this is basically it. Okay, so for a pass, I would expect to see something that's wholly descriptive in terms of your step-by-step guide, and the logical order of events, minimal links to other methodologies from your previous studies. So you've obviously written literature review, and you'll have based your methodology on something similar to a previous study. So linking that into your methodology is going to be good for justification. But if you haven't done that in very often, then that will be knocking your grade down. Lack of link to validity and reliability of equipment. Okay, so again, you need to be meticulous with that. And if you've only put in equipment models and types for some piece of equipment, then again, that will be knocking your grade down. So you need to be really, really on it in terms of describing your methodology. So for your distinction, basically the opposite of what I've just said. I expect to see a detailed explanation of step-by-step guide, which could easily be followed, an analytical approach to equipment and its reliability and validity, lots of links to other methodologies as justification for your methods, and all models and types are meticulously added in. Okay, again, you've always got to be thinking about the reader, and if they want to do your study, can they do your study based on what you've written? It's a really good way of looking back over your own words, self-reflecting, even looking at asking someone else to read it for you and ask if they could do it, especially someone who's not in the group or doesn't do sports science as a course. Okay, can they read it? Can they understand it? And could they go away and do it? Really, really good. So ask your parents to read your work, or your brothers and sisters, or anyone, or a friend. So what does this look like then? So let's have a look at a couple of examples, and we will start with the distinction. Okay, so straight away we can see that this section starts with the subjects. So in this study we've got 5 male semi-professional soccer players. So straight away we can see how many people are in the group, what gender they were, and what sport and what level they're at. In the very first sentence, which is an excellent start, okay, we can see that they were asked to fill in medical and consent forms, which was put into an appendix, which we'll do appendices in another video closer to the kind of hand-in date for the final assessment, just so we can start to tidy up them areas and put in all the forms that we used. Here as well we can see that they've been asked to do a food diary, they've they've been asked to refrain from drinking alcohol and caffeine. The testing was done following BASIS guidelines, and that all the data will be kept anonymous, and only research and supervisor will have access. So that is an excellent start to the methodology, and it's already told us a lot about what the researchers did to get their data, and even in this section, what they did to try and make it valid and reliable in terms of what they controlled. So now I know a lot of you control diet. You ask the people to eat similar things. You ask them not to drink alcohol or have anything on the morning before testing. Okay, so you need to be put them things into your methodology and explain exactly what was going on. Underneath that, we can see that there's an anthropometric measures table. Okay, and in here we have height, weight, body fat, age, and their maximum heart rates respectively. And we can see that the data has been represented as averages plus or minus standard deviations, and underneath and a description of the equipment that was used to take each one of the anthropometric measures, which is really good. Okay, so I expect to see something similar in your studies. So the height, the weight, the body fat percentage, and the equipment that was used underneath. Okay, moving on to the procedures. Straight away, okay, we start from the beginning. So the participants were instructed to swallow a core temperature pill. Okay, and the core temperature pill has been, the model makes there. Okay, how long before? If you were to read this, I mean, you can pause this and have a read through it and see how meticulous it is, but okay, every single thing that was done has been step by step put in. Alright, and there hasn't been one bit missed out. We can see straight away there's been links to literature here, to the exercise protocols, where they've come from, where the exercise protocols have been taken from, which studies. Okay, and again, another links to more literature. Lots and lots of equipment was used, and the makes and models put in. Okay, continuing down, we can see we use rates of perceived exertion. I know everyone's used, so that needs to be put in. And if we were to read it, if you do spend some time reading this, you will see the extent of how they've explained their procedures, a step-by-step guide all the way through, from the very first point of meeting the participants to the last point and taking the data. Moving on to the final section, then the statistical analysis section, we can see here that straight away they've told us exactly what they've done. Now, you won't be going into statistics in this amount of detail because you're not at that level yet, but we still expect to see the tests you're using. Okay, so we can see here that they have used in ANOVA, repeated measures ANOVA, okay, and a TUI ANOVA. They've also put in which data points that they were conducted on, okay, so which dependent variables were used for which data analysis. Okay, we can see that they've used a couple of different tests, so you put a t-test in, a Pearson's correlation test. You will probably only do one, so that's okay, as long as you put in that test and why you've done it. We can see that the data was analysed using SPSS version 19, again the model, or the make, sorry, of the software. And finally the confidence interval of 0.05, which is the p-value. Alright, and all data has been represented as means plus or minus standard deviations. So I expect to see that level of detail within yours. What test are you going to use? What software are you going to be putting in? What's your confidence interval, so your p-value, and how are you going to represent your data? Okay, you can also put in there about where you're going to do your averages, what you're going to do with your standard deviations. Okay, just as a little bit. And also in this section, I expect you to tell me why you've chosen that test. Okay, why is that a good test to use for your data? Okay, so let's have a look at a bad. So we're into the pass level piece of work. I'm not quite sure what happened in the video there, but we're back on anyways. Straight away we can see there's not as much detail as the last methodology. Okay, the participants section, although a good table which contains the anthropometric measures, height, weight, there's no equipment there to say what was used to get that data. Okay, we can't see if they've been asked to refrain from eating or drinking anything. Was there a medical form taken? Was the consent form done? There's nothing there. The procedures is vague. Okay, we can see here we've got male participants. We can see what clothing they've used, but when it comes to things like being on the treadmill, there's no speeds. It's just a level 6. I mean, that could mean anything for different treadmills. There's no makes and models of equipment in there. Okay, it's vague. It's not particularly descriptive. And finally, with your statistical analysis, there's nothing really there to perform a t-test in Excel. Okay, why is that t-test being performed? Why have they used Excel? Why haven't they used SPSS? Okay, so hopefully, looking at these two, you can see the difference between a distinguished piece of work and a past piece of work. and that should help.